What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Dana White's Contender Series breakdown and predictions for week number 5.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another breakdown and prediction video for Dana White's Contender Series. This week we are breaking down week number 5. And yeah, it's a card where I'm not really high on many of these fighters, if I'm being honest. But, you know, looking forward to these fights nonetheless on a Tuesday. It's a kind of a card where we've had a couple fights actually fall through. We have 2 different fighters who are going to be stepping in on short notice. So kind of a weird card this week, but looking forward to it nonetheless. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting some UFC 293 content throughout the week. We got a pretty solid pay-per-view card coming up this Saturday, so be on the lookout for that. If you do want to support me more, or if you do want extra content for DWCS, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. There you will find my fighter notes. I'm going to be posting my betting breakdown article and then my betting breakdown video as well. So all that should be out within the next couple hours. I'm assuming props should be out or dropping very shortly here. So, but yeah, with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with the first fight on the card. And this is going to be the first fight that kind of fell through. We have Dione Barbosa is going to be stepping in here on a couple days short notice because Rainn's opponent did pull out a couple days ago there. So we'll start with Dione Barbosa, who is 31 years old. She is 5'5", 8-4, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. And then we have Rainn Guerrero, who is 31 years old, 5'6", 5-1, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So yeah, like I said, Barbosa is stepping in here on short notice. She trains out of BH Rhinos, which is the same gym as Luana Pinheiro. In terms of notable wins or losses for Barbosa, she has a lot of them, which is crazy because she only has like 12 fights, but she's fought, you know, some good competition. So she lost to Josiane Nunes by second round knockout back in 2019. And then more recently, she did lose to Jenna Bishop, who's not bad, back in 2021. That was by decision. And then she also beat somebody who's, you know, currently in the UFC and doing very well, and that is Karina Silva. She beat Karina Silva by decision in 2019, and that was actually the only fight ever where Karina Silva went the full 15 minutes. So Barbosa was able to take Karina Silva 15 minutes. Very impressive there. So she has a 40% finish rate, 0 by knockout, and 2 of which come by submission. Some notes I have on Barbosa. Like I said, she's coming in here on short notice, so the cardio could potentially be an issue, but I'm not all that worried about it. Like I said, she's fought some very good competition in her wins and losses. She uses her length very well and has very solid striking. Love the volume. She bounces around and she's very active on the feet. I love the striking from Barbosa. I love the jab from Barbosa, and she goes to the body as well. She has very good combinations. But that's not my favorite part of her game. My favorite part of her game is probably the wrestling and the grappling. So very good wrestling, very strong wrestling. She has a judo background. She's a black belt in judo. She's also a BJJ black belt as well. When she gets on top, her control's very good. And when she gets on top, her opponents typically don't get up. They typically stay there. And she's smart when she's on top. She's a very good grappler. She's content to win minutes, sit in half guard, which is always nice to see. She's not going out there submission over position, going for, submissions, losing position, ending up on bottom. None of that. She's content to get on top and just burn the clock, which is something you'd like to see. She's good wherever the fight goes. She's very well-rounded. She's fought good competition. I like the striking a lot, but I like the ground game even more. I was very impressed with Barbosa. As far as Rainn Guerrero, she is training out of Ward Training Center. No notable wins or losses. Not really fought the best competition. Guerrero as well has a 40% finish rate, 20% by knockout, 1 knockout, and then 1 submission as well. So some notes I have on Guerrero. She's very aggressive on the feet. She loves to throw out a lot of volume. Her striking's pretty solid. She's very tough, and she loves to come forward. She's like a bull. She comes forward the entire time. She's super tough. She's willing to eat one to give one. Very fun to watch. Very exciting fighter. She does her best work when coming forward and being aggressive. And there's solid pressure as well from Guerrero as well. I do like the pressure that she brings to the table. She needs to get on the inside here against Barbosa. If not, she's going to have a tough time on the outside, I gotta think. She will look to get fights down to the mat in a decent amount of fights, but she doesn't really have a ton of success in doing so. She can, get takedowns here or there, but, she's primarily looking to go out there, scrap on the feet, come forward, brawl, and that's in most of her fights. So some final thoughts I have on this matchup. Like I said, as long as Barbosa's cardio, holds up for 15 minutes, I really do like this matchup for her. She's fought the much better competition, and it's not even close whatsoever. I think Barbosa is just going to be the better fighter, really, wherever it goes. I like the striking on the feet, and she should be able to use that judo black belt to get takedowns here, get this fight down to the mat. And when she does get on top, I expect her to win minutes, burn the clock, and win a pretty convincing decision here. So I like Barbosa to get this done by decision. We see Barbosa is a big favorite here, minus 300, and the comeback on Guerrero is plus 240, and Barbosa is probably one of my most confident picks on the card, which is kind of saying a lot, but I do like Barbosa to win as long as she's coming in here in shape, ready to go. And if she is, I think she wins this fight more often than not. So give me Barbosa by decision. Moving on, we have Kevin Vallejos taking on Gene Silva. We have Vallejos, who is 21 years old, 5'8", 11-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We got Gene Silva, he's 26 years old, 5'7", 10-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So we'll start with Vallejos here. So he's training out of Brothers of Life MMA, as far as I'm concerned. It looks like he is doing some work at the PI though, with Prado, but this guy's super young. In terms of notable wins or losses, so he does have a notable win. He did beat Eduardo Garagorri, who I was never really personally high on, but Eduardo Garagorri did fight in the UFC. He got cut, and then we did see Vallejos go out there and beat Eduardo Garagorri by second round knockout there. So Vallejos is a finisher, 82% finish rate, 73% of those coming by knockout, and he does have a submission as well. So some notes I have on Vallejos: he's very active with the leg kicks and throws hard kicks to the body. The volume can be a little bit low at times, though. I'm really not a fan of how little he does throw on the feet, and he does look uncomfortable at times in the stand-up, which is, he's young, he's improving, he's still a little bit green, but when he does let his hands go, he does look pretty good, and he has shown some power. And like I said, he was able to really put it on, get Garagorri in his last fight, and get him out of there in that second round. He hurt Garagorri, and he put it on him, and he finished him, he got him out of there. He's so young at 21 years old, and although he was able to get a nice win against Garagorri in his last fight, I'm still not sure he's quite UFC ready. He will go for takedowns and get the fight down to the mat, and when he does get on top, his ground and pound's pretty good, but that's not really his game. And a lot of his fights, he's able to, get takedowns, he's able to throw his opponents down to the mat, and he's just really letting them back up. So I'm not really sure Vallejos really wants anything to do with the ground game, primarily looking to strike. And Vallejos, he looks okay, but the record I think could be a little bit deceiving. He hasn't really fought the best competition outside of Garagorri, which, like I said, Garagorri, I don't think he's all that great. But yeah, 11-0, undefeated record. It looks pretty, but I don't think he's fought the best guys. Then we got Gene Silva. This guy is fighting out of Fighting Nerds, which is the same gym as Kyle Bahayo. No notable wins or losses for Gene Silva. I talked about the poor competition for Kevin Vallejos. Silva's is probably worse, to be honest. 100% finish rate for Silva, though. 80% by knockout and then 20% by submission. This guy has a ton of power. So some notes on Gene Silva. Like I said, he has not fought the best competition, and there's not a lot of available fights out there of Silva. One of the fights I was able to watch from this guy was 6 years ago against Pedro Henrique, and you can't really tell much from a fight that happened, 6 years ago, right? So kind of struggling on this fight here in terms of there's a lot of missing information. But what I have seen, though, he is aggressive, very aggressive, which I do like. He will throw kicks to the body. He can be very, very wild, though, and at times he'll just charge at his opponents, can be very reckless. He looks to explode and burst. There's a couple, minutes where he'll just do nothing, and then all of a sudden he goes out there trying to take his opponent's head off. He's dangerous, and he's always looking for the finish. He has finished 8 of his wins by knockout, and he did have a nasty knockout in his last fight. I was able to watch his fight against Vladimir Cardoso, and he knocked him out so bad, and Cardoso didn't get up for like a couple minutes. Like, he was just knocked out stiff. It was kind of hard to watch there. So yeah, Gene Silva, he does have a lot of power, a lot of finishing ability, but I feel like there's a lot of missing information here on Silva. But from what I have seen, he's fun to watch, and he goes after it. So this is probably the toughest matchup for me to call on the card here. I really don't think either guy belongs in the UFC at this moment. Maybe, Vallejos, he's super young, 21 years old, maybe in a couple years, he can improve, but, right now I'm not so sure he's ready for this level. I still think he has a long way to go. I don't like the low volume of Vallejos, and I feel like Silva's going to be the more active fighter, the more dangerous fighter, the harder hitting fighter. So I'm going to take Silva here with little to no confidence. It's definitely a shot in the dark because I really don't know much about this guy. I was able to watch like 2 fights of Silva, but I just wasn't impressed at all with Vallejos. So I would caution anybody laying, minus 170 on this guy. The cardio of Gene Silva is a huge question mark. Like, if this fight does get out of the first round, what's he going to look like? I'm not sure. But I'll say, Silva does catch Vallejos early on in the first round, but I don't have a ton of confidence in this fight here. Give me Silva for the win. Vallejos minus 170, like I said, Silva plus 145. I'm not sure if either guy's really ready for the UFC at this moment. All right, moving on. We have another short notice replacement here. So Dylan Budka is coming in here on short notice to take on Chad Hanekom. So we'll start with Chad Hanekom. This guy's 31 years old, 6'4", 9-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Dylan Budka, he's 23 years old, 6 foot, 6-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So Chad Hanekom, this guy is fighting out of Fight Fit Militia. This guy, I believe, is from South Africa. Notable wins or losses. He did have a notable loss against Ikram Aliskerov in 2018. It was by a split decision even. I went back and watched the fight. I thought Ikram, won pretty cleanly, but a judge did score, the fight for Hanekom there. So this guy's a finisher, 76% finish rate overall, 33% by knockout, 44% by submission. Some notes I have on Hanekom. This guy's massive for the middleweight division, 6'4". He's going to have a big size advantage here, and he likes to use the size and range to kind of stick on the outside. He takes his time and takes a little bit to get going in there on the feet. He's very patient early in the fight and doesn't really do much. Very low volume on the feet, but when he does land, he does have some power. But he doesn't do much, though, which I don't love. He did land like one of the most nasty elbows I've ever seen in one of his latest fights and knocked his opponent out cold. So yeah, he does have power. He just doesn't let his hands go all that much. So he is a BJJ brown belt, and he will go for takedowns. I don't think he's the best wrestler in the world, but what he is, he's one of those guys where he's just relentless in terms of trying to get the fight down to the mat. The control doesn't look great. Opponents are able to get back up when he does, take him down early. But as the fight goes on, he kind of starts to wear on these guys. He starts to, consistently try to take him down. If they get back up, they go right back down. And he's just relentless. Chain wrestling is on point. And he kind of has the cardio to do it as well. But sometimes he looks like he's like panic wrestling in there. Like if he's not able to get the fight down to the mat, he doesn't look great. But he'll attempt so many takedowns, and he'll eventually get one. And once his opponents start to slow down, they don't get up. Later in the fight, and then he's able to control his opponents there. But so yeah, his opponent, his control does get better as the fight goes on. But initially, I don't think it's great. Not impressed at all with Chad Hanekom, to be honest. And I was looking to fade him here, but we'll talk about Dylan Budka right now, who I'm also not the most impressed with. So Budka, out of Ohio, he's training out of Demolition Fight Team. In terms of notable wins or losses, he did lose to Azamat Bokayev, who is currently 16-3. This guy is a decent finisher, 17% knockout rate and a 33% submission rate. So Budka, like I said, he's stepping in on very short notice here, and he fought at heavyweight in his last fight, which was like less than 2 weeks ago, and he weighed in at like 207, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, he fought at heavyweight like 10, 11, 12 days ago, and now he's coming in here at middleweight. So I'm not sure, what's going on there, but it is what it is. Anytime this guy Budka's fought somebody who's not a can, like he's lost the fight, he's going to be the more aggressive fighter here on the feet, that's for sure, but that could be to his detriment. I mean, this guy makes a lot of mistakes. He is primarily looking to get the fight down to the mat and he's a pretty good wrestler and very strong. I think he has a wrestling background, or at least he wrestled in high school, and I think he was a pretty good wrestler in high school as well. I have seen him, like I said, make just mistake after mistake, end up on his back, get controlled, get his back taken. He's very aggressive, but like I said, it's, sometimes he's a little bit over aggressive, and that can definitely hurt him. He struggles to get back up when taken down, and that could very well be a problem here. Like, offensively, his wrestling's pretty good, and offensively, his grappling's pretty good, but defensively kind of leaves a lot to be desired. He will use submissions to, sweep, end up on top, but he can't be a little bit too content, to lay on his back and lose minutes there. So yeah, offensively, grappling's pretty slick. Defensively, he can be controlled a little bit. Final thoughts on this fight. I mean, just like the last fight, I'm not sure I can imagine any of these guys in the UFC. Not high on either guy. I was looking hard to fade this guy, Hanekom. I really was, but, Budka is coming in here on very short notice, and he's going to be undersized in this matchup. 4-inch height disadvantage in this matchup. And like I said, he makes too many mistakes for my liking. Hanekom is a brown belt in BJJ. And Hanekom, although he isn't impressive, he can wrestle relentlessly. He can wrestle for 15 minutes. He is going to be the guy that's more prepared to fight on Tuesday. So I'm going to take Hanekom. In terms of the line, Hanekom's actually the dog, which maybe people looked at the tape and saw that this guy potentially sucks. I mean, I don't know, but short notice, Budka, I don't know. I don't really like it. I'm going to take Hanekom here as the dog. I'm going to take him to win by decision, but like I said, I'm not really excited about either of these guys. All right. Moving on, we have Serhiy Sidey going against Ramon Tavares. We will start with Sidey, who is 27 years old, 5'11", 9-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We have Tavares, who is 29 years old, 5'7", 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we have Sidey training out of Paro Balloum MMA, which is, I believe, in Canada. This is a guy, in terms of notable wins or losses, he did lose to Matteo Vogel, who fought on the Contender Series last week, and that decision loss did come back in 2020. So Sidey has a 78% finish rate, 56% by knockout, 22% by submission. Some notes I have on Sidey here is he is the BFL bantamweight champion, which I think we've had like 2 BFL champions thus far fight on the Contender Series this year already. So this is going to be the 3rd one as far as I'm concerned. So as far as Sidey, good pressure on the feet. Love the pressure. Very aggressive. Really good combinations. He mixes it up to the body very nicely. He digs to the body. He hurts guys to the body. Nice kicks to the body as well. Nice kicks to the legs. He looks very comfortable on the feet and has many tools on the feet as well. Just a very good high-level striker in Sidey. This is a guy where his striking defense isn't great, and that could be an issue in this matchup for sure. But he will walk through everything his opponents throw his way. He's never been finished yet, so his chin is held up thus far, and he's going to need that chin in this matchup. His pressure, I think, is one of his best weapons. He comes forward the entire fight. Like, even 5-round fights, he's marching forward the entire fight, doesn't take a back step, and I really like that about the guy. And he can mix in takedowns if need be, which I think he could take that route in this fight potentially. And when he does get on top, he has good control and good ground and pound. Takedown defense looks very solid and seems hard to take down, and the cardio is very good. So he has that cardio, the pressure, the pace that I really like, and he does a really good job at breaking his opponents with pressure and body work, and he has multiple finishes to the body. I was very impressed with the striking of Sidey. As far as Tavares, he's training at Bulldog Boxing. Notable wins or losses for Tavares. He did beat Martin Day by 1st-round submission. Martin Day's 8-7 now, by the way. So Martin Day, a guy that did fight in the UFC before, got cut, and now he's about a 50-50 fighter. My goodness. So Tavares is a finisher, a very good finisher. 88% finish rate for Tavares, the majority of those coming by knockout. Some notes I have on Tavares. He's not fought the best competition overall. Outside of Martin Day, which, like I said, he's not that amazing. He was knocked out in his only loss as well. Tavares was back in 2021. So just like Sidey, this guy's a very pressure-heavy style on the feet, very heavy kicks to the body, and he swings for the fences on his punches. And, some of these punches he's throwing, he's like loading up, like he's throwing a fastball. I mean, this guy tries to take his opponent's head off. But he does take his time. He's composed, and when he does throw and let go, he hits very, very hard. He has some serious power, and he will absolutely have the power advantage here in this matchup. He was able to knock down his last opponent like 3 times before finally getting him out of there. And I went to his Instagram. I think he wrote he has like a 9-to-1 like knockdown ratio. So this guy's knocking guys down. And yeah, like I said, he was able to submit Martin Day in his last fight, which it is what it is. But Martin Day is a guy that fought in the UFC nonetheless. And I didn't see much of his grappling outside of him going out there and submitting Martin Day in the first round. Primarily he's looking to take guys' heads off, and he hits very, very hard. So fun fight here. This is probably my favorite fight between this and the main event. I think these are 2 guys where I think I could see either guy honestly in the UFC. I think these guys are probably UFC ready, both of them very fun fighters. So yeah, I liked what I saw from both guys. So Sidey has fought the better overall competition, I'd say, and I'd say Sidey's definitely the more well-rounded fighter. Tavares hits like a truck though. For a bantamweight, this guy's power is no joke. But Sidey has never been knocked out. I like the cardio, pressure, pace, volume of Sidey, and I think he'll be the minute winner in this matchup. And as long as his chin holds up, that's the big thing. As long as Sidey's chin holds up here, I see him doing the better work across 15 minutes. I think he'll be landing more volume. I think he has more tools on the feet. I think he can also mix in takedowns as well. But Tavares hits very, very hard. So we'll see if Sidey's durability holds up. If he does, I see him winning a decision here. All right, and then we have the main event. We have Bruno Lopes going against Brendson Ribeiro. We will start with Bruno Lopes, who is, and by the way, Sidey is like a -170 favorite in that last fight. But yeah, Bruno Lopes is 30 years old, 6'2", 11-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Brendson Ribeiro, 27 years old, 6'3", 14-5, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll start with Bruno Lopes here. So he's training out of a China team. This is a guy who, in terms of notable wins or losses, he did beat Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, but it was back in 2014, and he knocked him out about a minute. I think it was like 1:06. Good finisher in Lopes, an 82% finish rate, 45% of which come by knockout, and then 36 of which come by submission. So notes I have on Bruno Lopes here: he comes out hot, comes out with pressure. He will be wild, and he will throw punches to kind of close distance. He can get dragged into a slugfest, which is, not something he probably wants to do here. And he will stand and bang with his opponents at times, but he has shown a very good chin. Like, this guy can eat flush shots and not go down, but I don't really think he's going to want to do that too much in this matchup. I love the pressure on the feet, and he does great work to the body. This guy has a lot of power. Good striking from Lopes. He landed a nasty elbow in his last fight to win the LFA Light Heavyweight Championship. Landed an elbow, hurt his opponent bad, and got him out of there with a flurry of punches. Bruno Lopes is no joke on the feet. In terms of the ground game, he's very strong in the clinch and looks to get to his opponent's back standing. Looks to drag him down to the mat as well. And he will stick to his opponents like glue. Against the cage. He'll give them no room to breathe. He's very, very strong in the clinch there. When he does get the fight down to the mat, he's very heavy on top, has good control and good ground and pound. And he has a solid submission game as well. He's finished 4 of his wins by submission. He has a style that requires a lot of energy, but his cardio seems to hold up well, and his takedown defense looks good. And if he does get taken down, he does a really good job at working his way back up to the feet. So I was very impressed with Bruno Lopes. I think this guy is a very good fighter overall. In terms of Brendson Ribeiro, he's training at Evolcal Thai MMA. In terms of notable wins or losses, he did beat Antonio Ohoyo by submission back in 2015. Antonio Ohoyo is a guy that I think's been cut from the UFC, but Ohoyo is a guy that has fought in the UFC before. Ribeiro has a 100% finish rate, has finished all of his wins, 56% of which come by knockout, and 44% of which come by submission. So equal opportunity finisher, pretty even there in terms of the finishing ability. So Ribeiro was the Shuto Brazil light heavyweight champion. On the feet, he's very wild, looping punches. No defense, all offense. This guy, he leaves a lot of openings to be hit on the feet, but he's very, very dangerous. He hits very hard. He throws all technique out of the window. I mean, this guy's throwing windmills in there. It's kind of funny, but this guy hits hard. He finishes people. He has been finished 4 times in his career, though. twice by knockout and twice by submission. He can get takedowns, but he is submission over position. He does not look great off his back whatsoever. He was very close to being stopped via ground and pound in his last fight, which I think was the title fight. Like, the ref was like really close to, you know, stepping in and stopping the fight. And if his opponent would have let off on, you know, any more ground and pound, I mean, he would have lost the fight and he wouldn't even be here right now. But he was able to end up, you know, getting on top, and he ended up finishing his opponent via TKO in his own right. I think the fight IQ is a massive problem here. He lost position going for submissions twice in his last fight. Ended up on bottom. And like I said, when he's on bottom, he looks atrocious. When he's on top, he looks good. Good ground and pound will look to finish the fight. But, you know, if this guy does end up on bottom, in this fight especially, it's probably a wrap. So some final thoughts I have on this matchup. Ribeiro is pretty dangerous offensively, but defensively just leaves a lot to be desired. You know, he is there to be countered and knocked out all day on the feet. And like I said, I think the ground game's horrible when he's on his back. I think Lopes gets his fight down to the mat and probably finds the finish shortly after. But if Lopes goes out there and says, hey, I'm gonna test my striking, I'm gonna put on a show, and goes out there and stands and bangs with Ribeiro, that's going to, you know, give Ribeiro a opportunity to win there, and it can most definitely end poorly for him. But I'll say Lopes does drag this fight down to the mat, gets on top, and it exposes Ribeiro and finishes him via first round at TKO. Lopes, massive favorite, -600. Ribeiro +425. I think Lopes gets it done there. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, look out for some UFC 293 content throughout the week. If you guys want to check out some more content, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. It looks like I think they have odds out, but I'll be getting out my betting breakdown video for the Contender series, and then also my best bet article as well, and then my fighter notes. That should all be out within the next hour or so. So yeah, guys, best of luck. Talk to you soon, and see you later.